All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be speaking to an individual set to compete at AEW Dynamite Beach Break, which transpires on May the 14th. We've got a steel cage match going down with the AEW World Heavyweight Championship on the line as John Moxley defends against Samoa Joe, and great having Joe on Bowks Talking Bouts today. How are you doing, man?
Excellent, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Just I'm really excited about this match. It presents a somewhat unique opportunity for you, just being that CM Punk and Moxley have been the only multi-time AEW champions up until this point. So a chance to kind of put yourself into that rarefied air as well on Wednesday.
Oh, I agree. I think winning championships in AEW is something that I tremendously enjoy doing, and taking off a guy like John Moxley will makes it a little bit more pleasurable.
And I was seeing you have a bit of a history of mailing ridiculous weapons to John Moxley. Is there any worry that he might bring any of that armament into the cage match here?
No, because apparently lately I should have been mailing him Nikes, right? Because he keeps running. Because that's why we're in this cage. So, I mean, he can bring whatever weapons you want. I mean, you got to remember, I sent him to him, and if you think that I send him something inferior to what I got in my closet, you must be out of your mind.
Yeah, you're keeping the real intense weapons to yourself. You're not giving like the
Oh, of
premium
course, yeah,
armament away.
yeah. I'm not over there in Daggerland. Over there with the butter knife. We got real things over here if we need to handle something.
But speaking of Moxley, like I love how much he speaks highly of your Necro Butcher match in his book. And I mean, that's just become such like a cult classic match for so many different fans, like to the scale where I saw an interview and you were referencing how someone apparently wrote their graduation dissertation surrounding that match. Like, I guess speak to just how much of a, I guess, like mythos this kind of matchup has taken on because it truly has taken on a life of its own, it seems like.
I guess it has. It's been an interesting mythos, if anything. I think in a era where professional wrestling was very much, kind of catapulted into a very glamorous era. It just was a match at a time that harkened back to a simpler, more primal time in pro wrestling when grudges were settled in the most brutal way possible. Things weren't pretty. Combat was ugly, and I guess that's what a lot of people like about that match. So um, it has been interesting to see something that was done in such a small building in front of so few people kind of take on a life of its own and exist and live out there in the ethos among a lot of people now.
I guess I also thought it was interesting too in the context of how you seem to look at what you do as a performer, because I've seen some interviews where people have asked you like, "Oh, what's an underrated match you've had?" And your logic is almost like, "Well, if it was underrated, it must not have been that good," which is kind of an interesting mentality. And in this context, I would think that would have been a performance you were particularly proud of, just how much of an indelible mark that it has lasted and all.
Uh, I am, and that kind of goes back to the fans that have discovered it and have kind of embraced it and enjoyed it. And you don't do things. I mean, at least I didn't really expecting something kind of that level, this secondary finding of your work and people digging it. But it's hard to quantify because it's an unusual situation. I don't know. It's like it's hard to really like. I'd love to say, oh, I'd sit back and I go, oh, it's awesome, and this is so sick, but like I said, I don't really spend a lot of time pondering legacy and things like that. I think that inevitably is always left in the hands of the fandom and those who you served in your time as in entertainment. So, um, yeah, man, I'm just stoked people like it and they enjoy it and they find happiness in watching it, and it's a fun thing for them to have and to revisit. And as long as I'm doing stuff like that, I think that's where my satisfaction and my happiness comes
Yeah, and it speaks volumes that you're having such incredible matches during a time that's ultimately 2 decades after the fact. And I mean, just that was such a great run. I mean, the matches you had in 2005 are among some of my favorites. Like the Kobashi match obviously comes up a lot, and the Styles Daniels triple threat. But I'd be curious to get your perspective on it as like a performer, because I feel like each of those matches had such unique stylistic considerations that underpinned them. Like, was that something that you really enjoyed about that particular stretch and that body of work, just having to, or rather being engaged in these matches that had such unique stylistic considerations and kind of unique methodology across each of them in a way?
All right, here's the real satisfaction from that is that when you're coming up in wrestling and you get a lot of differing opinions, and they're not necessarily wrong, they're just different perspectives on how the business works from a lot of people. And I was a wrestling nerd. You know what I mean? I really like I cared about the technique and the art, and I made it a point to try to study different styles and have a working understanding of them, like lucha libre, submission grappling, the shoot style from UWFI and onward. And when I didn't really need to, because let's be honest, there really wasn't a market for that, and it's not what is often commonly seen in Western pro wrestling. But finding myself in these positions where I had to make these adaptations to these different styles was like justification for me being a nerd all those hours, and like guys telling me that's not what makes money. What makes money is oil, muscles, and good promo, and that's not necessarily untrue. I'm not saying that is untrue. Like that is also a very big part of this, but it's not the only way to skin that cow. So it was just cool, like for me, the personal justification of all that extra tape study and weird nights trying to unlock why people did things a certain way actually worked out, because I had to end up working several different styles of wrestler throughout my career. And it definitely aided me and helped me in being confident enough in those situations to have a good performance.
Yeah, and that seems to have been what I've kind of gleaned from doing my research on you in some of those more formative years, like training with, Cincinnati Red and everything like that. Like it really seemed like you put the onus on yourself to figure out just really like what you said, just that multiplicity of techniques and the fluidity within that, and clearly paid off in a big way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and this really goes back to, starting out in my parents' Polynesian dance troupe. I had the pleasure of performing with a lot of great musicians, and there would be some good musicians, some guys who could keep a beat and strum the downbeat and do whatever, and then we had guys who were just incredible guitarists who were just amazing, uh you know auteurs at what they did whenever they picked up a guitar. And I always admired those guys because they didn't have to be that good to do the gig. I mean, they're playing slow two beat Hawaiian music for a dinner party in the afternoon, but they chose to be that good. And they could break out and play Santana, or they could break out and play heavy metal. They could play all these different genres of music, or just shred it playing some blues. And I just always remember having a high respect for that and saying, when I become a wrestler or whatever, or a baker or whatever I was going to be in life, I at least want to be able to do it at that high of a level.
Yeah, and it speaks to the fact that you've been a lifelong performer as well and everything. And that's a great analogy there, just the comparison framework that you established there. But I guess like a very underrated part of the Kobashi lore that I always appreciated was seeing that Kobashi apparently ate at Wendy's before the iconic match that you two guys had. And that kind of ties into a question my friend Matt Lamers wanted to ask. He was wondering what your favorite fast food options are. Like, you finish a big match, you're out there on the road, you're looking to snag some fast food. Like, what's the move?
Ugh, man, so if I had to go with the fast food, a late night fast food order, dude, I'm a big fan of the McDonald's double cheeseburger. Just the normal, straight up, no like two double cheeseburgers at like around like late night driving is like the perfect. You can drive with it. It don't get everywhere. It's very compact, very very easily, decently delicious. Usually the quality is decent at the same at 10 o'clock as it is at 3 in the morning. So it's not something super difficult to prepare. So it stays kind of consistent. So I think that'd be the guilty pleasure one.
I guess even just fast food in general, like say it's just like middle of the day and you got a craving, like what's the, I guess just all elements considered, like what are you, going after kind of thing?
Middle of the day. Yeah, I'm a real basic burger guy now. It used to be funny. I used to like oh, some fancy burger with all this stuff on it, dude. If you just got like I said, I'm probably a better burger joint. I guess like a Five Guys or a Shake Shack or In and Out, depending on where I'm at. But usually just a real simple, not a lot of. I mean, I don't even do the special sauce anymore.
But there was some special sauce going on there at Universal Studios Orlando back in the day. Just how many great performances you had there during your TNA tenure. And I saw you were there kind of recently at a PFL show, and one of my MMA media peers, Jonathan Ramlakan, was just kind of wondering how your experience was getting to check out the PFL action there on April 18th.
Yeah, dude, we're not going to just skate by that segue. We're going to take a minute and we're going to appreciate it. That was a pretty good one. Special. Okay. All right. All right, good, good. No, yeah, yeah, no, it was cool. It was, you know, my time there at Universal was obviously very quite a while. It was very special. It was very, very cool to revisit the soundstage and see some PFL going on in there. There's just a lot of great memories around there. You know, a lot of it's more goofing off than probably what happened in the ring because, Lord knows, we did a lot of impromptu coaster rides whenever we weren't too busy. So, yeah, I mean. Universal's a cool place. I will say that it has now become. I used to not like because I was there all the time, but now I can say that I enjoy my time at Universal. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I guess you need to take that time to kind of, separate from it a bit to have that, appreciation thereafter and everything. But I just kind of thought to tie that in because it seems like you're someone who has a very healthy appreciation for MMA, like growing up in the Huntington Beach area at a time that seemed like so formative and the MMA landscape and stuff like that. And I saw in a different interview, Kazushi Sakuraba is your favorite MMA fighter, and it's a little bit after the fact now, but all the same, thought to shine a light on that recent quarter century anniversary of Saku's legendary 90-minute fight against Hoist Gracie. So just yeah, curious to have you maybe expound upon the Saku fascination because he represented pro wrestling so well in a shoot fighting context.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that's the initial attraction for somebody like me. I think also, the guy was just super innovative. I think he changed a lot of perceptions of MMA and how it was done. I mean, kicking guys with low kicks in the guard and just the acrobatics and cartwheel guard passes and all the kinds of wacky these pro wrestling s tactics, Mongolian chops from the guard. From a showmanship level, I think he definitely changed the game. Where not a lot of guys. It was a very brutal sport in its infancy, and a lot of guys had the guts to kind of go out there and be that wacky with what they did out there. And just finding a way to outlast the great Gracie the great Gracie challenge that was out there, and that nobody had ever really taken a Gracie down, and at least not in MMA competition. And it was such a ground earth shattering revelation when that match came down and he had beaten Hoist. And I just remember being at the gym and just everybody like, did you hear? And I mean, there was not even, it wasn't really even covered on the internet at the time. It was like it's hard to explain to people how hard it was to get information out of other countries, especially for fight sports these days, because it's just so accessible and it's almost streamed live as it's going on. Whereas back in the day, it was like this weird word of mouth. It was like hearing, the redcoats are coming or something. It was like, somebody just whispered in the gym, yeah, last night the Hoist lost. It's like, what are you talking about? And jiu-jitsu guys are denying it like it never happened. Like it was like, no, this is not true. And you couldn't confirm it until 2 weeks later when you got some publication or somebody had the video finally. And yeah, it was just, how could you not? And the super machine mass, the pageantry, all the fun stuff. I mean, he was just a super fun fighter at a time when not a lot of guys were very super fun.
Yeah, he definitely broke the mold in so many regards. And yeah, I just love the connectivity you have to the martial arts world. Like the prior time we talked ahead of your match with Wardlow, Revolution 2023, I was talking about your match that you had with Gerard Gordeau. But in another interview, I was seeing you talking about how you ate a punch to the liver from Boss Rutan. Like, who are some other, I guess, like standout MMA guys that are out there that you've gotten in that work with? Because I thought that Rutan anecdote was fun.
I mean, like not many lately. Just as I've moved away from the California area, but I mean, yeah, most of the guys back from Team Punishment. Kendall Grove, still a good buddy of mine. He's kicking ass out there and got a great jiu-jitsu school out on Maui. And yeah, I mean, yeah, just dudes like that. Rolling every once in a while. Batista will come down for a roll at my gym and stuff, so it's kind of cool. And it's yeah. I mean that's it now. I'm an older guy. I don't really keep up with much of the guys anymore, but back in the day, it was fun.
Yeah, I guess to the point of keeping up with the guys, like it always seemed like you had like a very good rapport with Homicide and so many great matches you guys had over the years. And not exactly like the lightest topic per se, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't at least, put it out there just with him recently retiring due to a brain cyst that was discovered and seemed like it was a very much a thing that caught him by surprise, like in the context of the retirement and anything. And obviously, just the health facet is the most paramount thing here. But just curious to get your thoughts on that situation with Homicide. I mean, such a legendary wrestler that you had connectivity to, also.
I've talked with D, and he's explained to me the situation and stuff, and obviously I am saddened that he won't be performing and people won't get to experience what he does, and I won't get to see him in the ring anymore because he is one of my favorite guys to watch. Period. Always has been since I met him. Um, but it's just my greatest hope now that he can get the medical treatment he needs. It works out well. I know he's dealing with a couple options, and I know his family, they're weighing him heavily. So it's just I really want the best for my friend. I want the best for my brother. I want to see him healthy and living a long life, taking care of his family, and being a part of it, an active part of it. And I think that's really where the focus is with a lot of us right now. Is um, we just want to see D get the best medical care, and see him recover, and be able to have the life we all think he could deserve.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like the health factor is the most paramount. Like that was where my mindset went when I saw that story broke and everything like that. So yeah, great that he has like good people around him supporting him during this time.
Yeah, and it's just a testament to what he's meant to so many people, especially in the Upper New York area. There wasn't a good guy that came up out of that area that Homicide didn't have a hand in, or just wasn't an influence on, or wasn't a part in kind of helping get along. I mean, very very few, and to see people being supportive of him, it's no surprise to me because he's really been such a whether he meant to or not, a support system to a lot of people throughout his entire career.
And to the point of influential wrestlers who you've shared the ring with, I also, in the same kind of context of it not being a light topic, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't try to get your thoughts all the same because I always really liked that Lockdown 2006 match you had against Sabu, and obviously he just passed away as of this recording. Like, did you have any thoughts you wanted to offer on Sabu? I mean, just such an influential figure who really enacted a paradigm shift in wrestling, it seemed like.
Um, I think in a way, I don't know. I've thought about this because spoke about this just a little bit earlier today, and like in a way, I wish people got to know the Sabu that I knew behind the scenes, the the a friend that's super loyal to the people that he says he's friends with, a guy who is quick to make you laugh, believe it or not, any chance he gets, and a guy who definitely lived life on his own terms and dedicated all of his life to pro wrestling. But on the other end, it's kind of like I don't, because he dedicated his life to never letting you see that side of him, and you viewing him in a certain way. So I just will say this: he was a man that was far greater than the sum of what anybody saw, and I know a lot of us will just miss seeing him. Just anytime you run into him, it was always, for me at least, something I look forward to. And yeah, I mean, it's just one less guy like that you see in the locker room, and that always sucks.
Yeah, I mean, well said, man. Definitely a massive loss. And I mean, that's a very interesting thing to touch upon, just like your anecdotal experience in wrestling, getting to see a side of performers that, probably belies what we as the fans get to see in front of the audience and everything like that. So just, yeah, really something to that, getting that kind of like direct, intimate kind of experience and all that.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel for his family and his friends around him right now, and um, I will say this: for a guy who dedicated his life to wrestling, he definitely did change the industry far more than anybody could ever hope to, and his mark will be left on this business for generations. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, well said. Truly one of the all-time great wrestlers. That's definitely a massive blow in the scene and everything like that. And yeah, I just appreciate you kind of like touching upon that. And it's never easy to like segue out of any kind of topic like that for sure. Just the nature of what happened with Sabu there. But just, yeah, a great time to, be a wrestling fan. It just seems like such an active landscape nowadays. And it was kind of funny just talking about the, I guess, indie wrestling culture a little bit the last time we were chatting. Like you were talking about how there's a aspect of torture and whatnot that accompanies kind of being in the Murphy Rec Center during those hot Philly summers and stuff like that. Like, there's really some kind of like unifying factor among wrestling fans in that kind of regard and whatnot.
So I agree. And I think, for a wrestling fan right now, you've never had more opportunity to have your taste catered to. And I think that there's tons of organizations out there across the world right now who are, putting out great work for a lot of different types of wrestling fans. And I just hope people are appreciative of this time, because it wasn't too long ago there wasn't much choice, and I'm really over the moon that there is as much as there is now.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like you said, it's an incredible time to be a fan. Like there's so many opportunities to, have your tastes catered to and stuff like that. But in terms of your taste musically, it seems like you're really into the hip hop scene, which is cool that Master P got to be in the ring with you guys during that Death Riders face off. And even more specifically, it seems like you're into battle rap. Like it seems like yourself and DNA have good rapport with each other and everything. And it seems like there's a certain level of crossover between those worlds. Like I feel like pro wrestling bars in battle rap have quite a level of prevalence. Like obviously there's like the classic ones you'd expect, like references to like Rock and Stone Cold, but some deep cut references in there occasionally as well. So yeah, certain overlap between those two communities, it seems like.
Oh, no doubt about that. I mean, I think inherently, hip hop is a music art that has loved professional wrestling throughout its existence. I think most rappers I know have a pro wrestling story or a pro wrestling fandom that they really mess with. And the confrontational nature of the promo and the confrontational nature of the battle rap. I mean, I think they do have similarities. Obviously, DNA, a good friend of mine, actually just texted me the other night, catching up. He definitely is an animal and author at what he does, man. When he gets down on the mic, so it's definitely inspiration for professional wrestling guys to make their words cut a little bit deeper.
And I was talking to Real Deal around the time that he was the King of the Dot champion, and we were kind of talking about just a similar kind of thing, like the overlap between the two spaces. But then we also kind of started talking about country music because he was like, I've been on a country kick lately. And he was kind of talking about how country and wrestling are similar because there can be that certain level of like just real earnest connection within it. Like those certain country songs that really hit. Like there's a certain just like earnest, like immediately identifiable quality to it. And he felt like wrestling was a very similar medium in that kind of regard.
I think all great country music, good country music, there is bad country music, but all good country music has a very harsh to it, especially at least the songs that I like. So I think it doesn't surprise that people in hip hop, when they actually get around to actually listening to it and kind of absorbing, understanding it more, they kind of identify with that honesty and stuff, because really everybody faces their struggles in every part of their life, and people can understand that. So I think that isn't a huge surprise to me, and I think country music as a whole has always had its roots, at least good country music, in telling the story of the common man, and just it's I think that kind of crossover pro wrestling too is very much that, because pro wrestling it's Americana, man. It's good versus evil. It's justice triumphing over that which isn't, and yeah, it doesn't surprise me if you find those crossovers in the culture.
Yeah, it seems like you can get down to a few genres of music. Like I feel like the stuff I've seen and doing my research on you was very hip hop focused, which is cool. I mean, obviously rap is quality, no doubt, but just how you were talking about country there, like what are some other genres that you get down to that maybe not that people might be surprised by, I shouldn't say that, but like what kind of music are you
Really,
getting down to?
it's funny. I think people pin me to hip hop because I've like friends in hip hop, and I will be seen at hip hop concerts a lot or whatever. But if you had to talk about my musical gamut, I mean, it really spans everything. I mean, I mean, when I've grown up, I mean, I love SoCal punk rock, 90s hardcore stuff like that. I mean, I lived in Huntington Beach, so you got this equal kind of induction of like, punk and ska and reggae and hip hop. And I mean, that's what it was when I was living in Orange County. It was all those musical kind of influences all crashing into you when you hit middle school to high school. So, yeah, I mean, those things, I've probably seen the original Sublime probably more times than people in backyard parties. And I remember a party where No Doubt was back there, and this is before I Kissed a Girl like blew up and stuff. So it's like, yeah, the musical the music I like is definitely varied. And but like I said, it comes up from coming in a show business family, understanding, you listen to enough lounge music that your band's playing during a happy hour, you're gonna start to like Quando. I'm sorry, it gets in your head. So yeah, I mean, I love all music. And um I hover around hip hop, I hover around punk mostly, and stuff like that, and reggae. But yeah, I mean, when you talk about music that I enjoy, it's limitless.
Yeah, because earlier, like when I was talking about your varied body of work in 2005, I was going to reference King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, but I didn't know how much that would like go over as a reference point. So
Yeah, no worries. It's good. I like that.
yeah, I mean, I like those guys too. I mean, they definitely have like a, I don't know, a very brave approach. Like I feel like sometimes people want to like get super in the box and whatnot. I mean, I guess it makes sense because I have friends who are in bands, and sometimes it like almost behooves you to having like an elevator pitch style of a thing, like, oh, we're this kind
Yeah,
of band and whatnot. But I still appreciate them, going off of that beaten path and everything. But in terms of like, different paths or like non-normative situations, we'll say. Like I always thought it was interesting seeing like those FIP shows back in the day, and I was watching an old shoot interview that you did with CM Punk, and it was talking about how like it was ran out of the back of a strip club, and there was like a guy that would sell barbecue outside of the venue, and it got kind of
oh,
got me thinking
delicious
like,
barbecue. Like the
well,
best barbecue. Like I'm still hunting this guy down. Like his barbecue was that good. Like yeah, I mean
yeah.
that yeah, just it's not very commonplace in pro wrestling. I mean, you're gonna find yourself in some unusual venues, wrestling in some unusual places.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to touch on that. Like, what are some other more unusual spots that you've wrestled in that you can kind of think of right now as I kind of reference the FIP back at the strip club shows?
Rodeo rings, which suck because then you got to change in the rodeo stalls, which are usually not cleaned out. I've done about every Knights of Columbus and VF Hall from here to Timbuktu, which isn't very uncommon. Let me think some weirder venues. Halftime at a Rough Riders game for the CFL. Yeah, we did halftime at a hockey game. I'm pretty sure too. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, those are some of the more odd ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like you've covered quite a bit of territory since the days of you wrestling Dirty Dave Sanchez and all that.
Oh yeah. We've made quite the journey since then.
And one of my favorite things about like doing wrestler interviews is kind of like going through the cage match database aggregator and just seeing some of the names of guys that you've wrestled over the years. Like I don't know why, but seeing that you wrestled a guy named Donnie Bon Jovi in 2002 really tickled me when I was going through.
Oh yeah, good old Donnie Bon Jovi, New Jersey staple back in the day. If you don't know that, quite the rocker. Good old Donnie Bon.
And I thought it was interesting too, just the origin of your name, because you were like, oh yeah, there was another guy at the gym named Joe, so I just became Samoa Joe. It was like
I
kind
mean,
of a
essentially that was it. It was just what I was called. It was a joke gimmick. But like I said, once again, and it's hard to describe this in a less communicatory world when there wasn't the social media networks that we have today. I remember, promoters would hear about me. Well, what's the kid's name? Samoa Joe. Oh, let's book the Samoa Joe kid. And, they started asking for Samoa Joe. And I was so, um, my whole deal was that, in order to pro wrestle, I had to make money. Otherwise, Pops was like, I need you to work back at the show with me, which I understood because, he didn't need my help at the time. Um, but that being said, I didn't want to be there. I wanted to do my own thing. And I just was so I did not want to mess up my booking. So I didn't want to like tell these promoters, oh, I was named something else. Oh, actually my name is blah blah blah. Because most promoters at the time just didn't care. I just needed a third match, dude. Like whatever. So Samoa Joe it is. And then by the time I started working regularly, well, that's what people knew me as, and I just kind of rolled with the name. I mean, that's literally the origin of it.
Do you know whatever happened to the other Joe? Like, did he manage to make a certain run in the game, or I mean, like you said, the connectivity isn't the same, so
I
perhaps,
think I think
yeah.
he was gone shortly. I think he was gone within a week and a half of training. I think he started like a week before me, and I think he was gone a week after me.
That's kind of a bummer. I was going to say there's almost like a bit of a narrative potential there, but if he gave up, then yeah, I guess not.
Yeah, no, I think he's I don't know, sunning somewhere, hopefully happily retired, but I doubt it.
Yeah, just such an interesting career, man. Like I could truly talk to you for quite a while, but I also do want to be cognizant of your time and your schedule and everything, man. So I guess just to that point, like, is there anything that perhaps you wanted to, touch upon as we're kind of wrapping things up here? I really do appreciate you making the time to talk today, man.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, if anything, this Wednesday beach break, come see me capture my next AEW championship. Hopefully you'll be there also.
Yeah, it's going to be such an exciting event just seeing yourself and John Moxley in that steel cage for the most coveted prize in all elite wrestling. And again, to reiterate, thanks for the time today and for coming on Bowks Talking Bouts. I'll be checking out the match when it goes down, man. But until then, you have a good rest of your day. And yeah, thanks so much.
Right on, man. Take care.